Bien, bueno, hola a todos. Voy a hacer una lectura en inglés de un libro que me pasó mi maestro de instrumento. Se titula Psicología para músicos. Es un libro de Oxford del 2007 y está en inglés. Lo hago porque un amigo y yo estamos interesados en mejorar nuestro inglés y pues lo hago como un ejercicio de lectura en otro idioma y pues nada, ¿no? Espero que a quien le pueda servir y a quien le pueda interesar, pues vaya, pues pueda ocupar este recurso también y que lo haga si también le interesa, ¿no? Ocupar pues una herramienta así, ¿no? Compartir en las redes cosas que le sirvan, ¿no? También que le puedan servir a alguien más. Y bueno, voy a empezar con el prefacio. Dice: The idea for this book came a few years back, when we were discussing the different classes we were teaching for musicians, psychologists, and educators. Each of us had discovered how difficult it was to find materials that matched the interests and previous knowledge of our students. All our students had experience as music listeners, and the great majority of them played a musical instrument or sang, albeit at different levels of proficiency. Yet the questions they posed regarding the psychology of music were quite similar. This book aims to answer precisely those questions. The topics covered here contain relevant information for musicians who perform or teach, for students of psychology who want to know more about music and the mind, and for musically inclined persons who seek personal growth and enrichment, although we steer clear of giving recipes for musicians on how to do things, which is, after all, the responsibility of methods, teachers, and practitioners. We try to provide a basis for informed decisions on why and how do things, why and how things might or might not work. When talking to students or people in the street, we have come across strongly held beliefs or myths about music. Some of them have no sound scientific basis and, in fact, might be counterproductive. For example, it is not true that absolute or perfect pitch is an indicator of innate musical talent, that music is exclusively processed in the right brain hemisphere, that listening to a lot of Mozart will make you smarter in general, or that there is just one way of learning to perform from memory. These and other firmly held beliefs will be addressed in the appropriate chapters. In order to stay close to music making and listening, we had to leave out of wealth the fascinating information that lies on the boundaries of our main focus. We only touch on such topics as musical acoustics and the early stages of cognitive processing, psychoacoustics, music and computer technology, music and artificial intelligence, music theory, music therapy, music medicine, and the cognitive neurosciences of music. Specialized publications exist in these emergent fields. We have included some of their findings, but for more detailed information, we refer the interested reader to representative sources in those areas. There are many excellent publications available in the field of music psychology, ranging from more general coverage to specialized topics. However, none of those edited books attempts a panoramic view of music making and listening based on cognitive theory in conjunction with the cultural context in which the music occurs. Perhaps the closest publication is John Sloboda's 1985 monograph The Musical Mind, to, it, to, which he, to which this book could be considered a sequel. While being professional academics, each of us has a distinct specialization and musical competency. As an interdisciplinary team, we draw from our individual fields of expertise, psychology and administration in higher education, general and music education, and musicology and psychology. We are all avid music lovers who enjoy listening to and making music in different musical settings and cultures. Since our earlier and formative years as performance majors or music educators, we have moved our focus to researching and writing about musical topics from psychological, sociological, musicological, and educational standpoints. Together, we decide on the overall plan of the book as well as the content of the individual chapters, although only one of us was responsible for each chapter. All of us had a hand in every chapter. Hence, this publication is a true three-outer book. This book can be used in different ways. Initially written with the classroom situation in mind. Its 12 chapters allow for use during an average semester, following an introduction in which we present some basic ideas and concepts. Chapter 1, the remaining 11 chapters divide into 3 sections: musical learning, musical skills, and musical roles. The first part, on musical learning, contains chapters on musical development, motivation, and practice. Chapter 2 covers the controversial debate surrounding talent and the environment in fostering musical development. Chapter 3 addresses motivational issues in music, and Chapter 4 discusses practice as the key activity in skill building. Second part, on musical skills, enumerates the skills that are part of music making, such as expressivity and interpretation. Chapter 5, reading and remembering. Chapter 6, improvising and composing, and managing performance anxiety. In the last part, on musical roles, we elaborate on the different roles that musical actors can assume as performers. Chapter 9, teachers. Chapter 10, listeners. Chapter 11, music users, consumers. Chapter 12. All chapters are structured similarly and start with a main text, which includes a brief chapter overview. The number of references used in each chapter has been intentionally limited. Interested readers can find many more by using appropriate search terms in relevant databases, or by consulting the references mentioned on the further reading as starting points. From our teaching experience, we have gathered a number of tried and tested self-study exercises or demonstrations that readers can do to experience and write about a central concept of the chapter. Also, knowing that our readers are likely to be most familiar with the Western art music tradition, we have tried to broaden the perspective by creating a box called the Cross-Cultural Perspective, except in Chapter 12. The idea is to show how cultural practices differ across time and space. Due to limits of space, we have chosen one important and methodological typical key study per chapter, which is reported in some detail. Due to limits of space, we have chosen one important and methodologically typical key study per chapter, which is reported in some detail. Finally, we added a few study questions as starting points for discussions on term papers. Many of our students lack scientific knowledge and are not comfortable with the technical terminology and formal scientific writing. Therefore, we have, like many other colleagues, developed ways of putting scientific findings across in ways that musicians are likely to understand and find relevant. This book is written in such a manner that everybody interested in music should understand. This book wouldn't have reached its current form without the help of a number of people. We thank Anders Ericsson for having inspired all of us, Aaron William, Wolfen, Alvin, Lucy Green, 2 anonymous reviewers, and various others for their helpful comments on chapter drafts. We are thankful to the School of Music at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln for hosting us on their campus for a productive week during the fall of 2003. We also acknowledge the people at Oxford University Press, especially Linda Donnelly, for their patience and help with this project. Most of all, we would like to thank Maria S. Lemon for her editorial supervision and help throughout. And that's the preface. Y este es el prefacio del libro. Vamos a parar esto.